welcome to episode 4 of Betfair Australia's Women's World Cup preview with myself, Carly Adno in Sydney and Katie Lambeski in Melbourne. It's been another incredible week of upsets, incredible results. The biggest upset was America, the USA. Their quest for a three-peat is over after they were knocked out by Sweden. We saw the Matildas comfortably through to their fourth quarter final, and we'll definitely be touching more on that a bit later on. But Katie, let's start with the match between England and Nigeria. It was a bit of an up and down game, and England survived a massive scare over there. What did you make of the game?
Rough in terms of the way that the game proceeded. It was just a tough watch at times. I think England had to hang tough. I think at the end of the day, once Lauren James got sent off, once that game ticked into the later stages, it really changed, I think, the shape of the nature of the game, changed what needed to be done from the England point of view. They needed to tough it out, I think, and they got there eventually. I'm not quite used to an English team winning on penalty kicks at this stage of my life, but this team is made of some sterner stuff. They are. It's just a matter of getting it done sometimes, and that's what you look back on when tournaments are all said and done, the ability to get back on track, the ability to find a way. They did that, and I think this English side particularly is technically brilliant. I think they're tactically brilliant, led by Serena Wiegman, just with the way that they set up in almost that 3-2-5 shape, particularly the way that they deploy. This is a strong team. I don't think people should read too much into that result being an end situation for England. I think it's just a matter of surviving. Teams have to come through that at different stages of World Cups. It doesn't take away from Nigeria, though. I think we have to give it up to what they brought to the tournament, what the underdogs as a whole have brought to the tournament. I think the established order in the game, if you will, we can point to Germany, we can point to Canada, we can point to Brazil, the US, they can no longer take their standing in the game for granted. The gap is closing, and it's been brilliant to watch. The underdogs have been a real story, and commiserations to Nigeria, and congratulations to England, I guess, as they move forward to play either, as we go to tonight, Colombia or Jamaica, who will kick off as we record tonight. So it only gets bigger from here for everyone at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Nigeria, how dangerous they could be when they beat Australia in that shock result. But we can't talk about that game without mentioning Lauren James and that moment of madness, I guess, a little bit of a brain fade from her. It's just, I guess, goes to show what pressure situations can do to a player. The emotions just got the better of her, and I'm sure she'll come out and say, yes, she made a mistake, and it could have been a really costly one.
It could have. I felt it was more absent-minded than anything. It was just in a brain fade, I think it's the only way to describe that moment. I don't think she meant any malice behind it. I don't think there was any sort of intent behind it, but the rules are what they are, and I think it was ultimately the only decision that could be made was to send her a red card. She was my Golden Boot contender, my Golden Boot nominee after the way she performed, particularly in that last group game against China. It's a massive blow for her to be out. Particularly, and I know England had some better news defensively with Keira Walsh coming back into the lineup, massive boost for them, but Lauren James, that's an absence that's going to hurt her. I mean, that's going to hurt her, it's going to hurt England, and I hope she lets the dust settle. I hope that the reaction, at least back home, is kind toward her. And we saw parallels of David Beckham in France '98. I hope we've moved a long time forward since then, and winning heals all problems. So she lives to fight. I hope for her sake she's doing okay, and the team gets behind her in these next few days.
Well, given the amount of upsets that we've seen and the powerhouses who are out of the tournament, this is a real opportunity for England to win this. But another team that have really impressed and I suppose have shocked many have been Japan. How sensational have they been, Katie?
Phenomenal. 360 minutes of football so far, 14 goals scored and only 1 conceded. Minimum of fuss, technically superb. Hinata Miyazawa has been absolutely brilliant, is now leading the Golden Boot race with 5 to her name. Fantastic. Norway didn't look in it at all from me. I think Japan just had control over that game. Just the way that they were able to forced the pressure on for the own goal. I think Hinata Miyazawa, with that cross floating in, the own goal was, of course, the first to open the game. That was a telling moment. That was a telling moment. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting the ball into the right areas and forcing the defenders into those mistakes. That can happen. And Japan did force the issue. That's what got them through. And I think technically they're outstanding. I think they're right up there with Japan, right up there with Spain, is now a favourite of this tournament. And the draw, as you say, has really opened up. So I think we can include Japan in that contenders list for sure going forward.
Absolutely. And I suppose being in Australia and being part of the Asian Confederation, it's not too much of a surprise for Australians who watch football. I mean, Japanese football has really been on the rise for a long time. They're a tough, tough team to beat. We've seen it with the men's side, we've seen it with the women's side. And you're right, they're up there as one of the contenders for sure. But let's move on to the Matildas game. That was just an incredible result. I was at the stadium. The roar when the players took to the field was off the charts. They were surprised a little bit by Denmark in the first 15 minutes, that the Danish defenders and midfield really took it to the Matildas. Their press, they closed them down. It seemed like at one stage there were 3 Danish jerseys to every one Matildas jersey. They played a perfect game plan, but nothing could have stopped that breakaway goal, that pass by Mary Fowler to find Caitlyn Ford rushing down the left-hand side. Incredible. The roar when that goal was scored just was magnificent. To 75,000 people packed into that stadium, another unbelievable occasion. Being at the stadium was phenomenal. What was it like watching on TV?
I felt every bit of it through the TV. You heard every little bit of it through the TV. It came through. 70,000 plus people making absolute noise, absolute pandemonium all throughout the night. I mean, Mexican wave aside, kudos to all the fans who turned out and went off in green and gold. It was an unreal occasion and it came through. It doesn't always translate to TV, but this is one of those occasions in which it did. And the hero's welcome for Sam Kerr as well for getting her first minutes into the game. All of these little flashpoints, all these little moments made for, I think, for a really special night for Australian football. And I think to think that we only have more to come. It only gets bigger from here. It's only the pressure's gonna mount, the excitement's gonna hit fever pitch. We can talk about the numbers that came out of last night's game. We can refer to that, but sensational. Kudos to everyone who turned up on the night as well. Brilliant.
It was pure theatre. They came out at the beginning of the second half. All of a sudden, I hear a bit of a roar to the left of me, and I look over to the side, and there's a couple of players warming up in the corner. One of them is Sam Kerr, and the applause she got just during the warm-up was amazing. She goes back to the bench. When she's getting ready to come on, you see Steph Catley run over to the side to hand her the captain's armband. Steph Catley goes back into the field, and then, of course, Sam Kerr enters the field. And I think the noise is still reverberating around Australia. I've never heard a substitute come on to such a huge applause and ovation before, but an absolute dream for her to finally get onto the field for a home World Cup. It was a boost to all the players. It was a boost to the fans. And let's just hope that there was a bit of rustiness. Her first touch wasn't great. I think she admitted that after the game. So it's good that she got those minutes under her belt heading into a crucial, obviously, quarterfinal match.
She needed to. I feel that she needed to. I kind of got into the sense of this game as she came in. I thought it was now or never, more or less, for her. If she didn't get on the field, I don't think she would have done for the rest of the tournament, to be honest. And there was a little bit of an alarm for me when she didn't take part in the warm-up. She was away from the main group. But the moment that moment is one for, I think, folklore, for Australian sporting folklore. The crowd reacted amazingly, and Sam's smile, I think, just said it all as she ran onto the field. For her point, I don't think she starts for the rest of the tournament. I can't see that happening. I know that there was a little bit of cloak and daggers. I thought she was going to sit back down and take her place back on the bench to maybe not risk her, but it had to happen. We needed to see her out there. The team, as you pointed out, builds off her presence. Then they will continue to do so the more she's out there. The belief is growing within this squad, and I think Sam Kerr and her presence is a big reason behind that.
Let's talk about the players who did the work on the field. Mary Fowler had a hand in both of those goals. That through ball to find Caitlyn Ford was world class. She was then involved in Hayley Rasso's goal to put Australia 2-0 up. An incredible performance by Mary Fowler at the age of 20. She just seems so cool, so composed. The vision, the execution. She was a real standout player. The other standout player, Caitlyn Ford. What an unbelievable World Cup she's had. Just the pace, the strength. She holds the ball up so well. She's scoring goals and she's doing it all without Sam Kerr beside her. So what have you made of Caitlyn so far? I mean, and I'm biased. I'm an Arsenal fan. I think that her progress has also had something to do with being at Arsenal, playing at the top level every week. But wow, has she really been exceptional this tournament?
100%, 100%. And, playing in those elite environments, you're right, brings the best out in players, she's responded to that. She absolutely has. In terms of work rate, that was the absolute main thing for me. Just, I know she was absolutely brilliant on the goal, putting it through the keeper's legs, no problem at all, calm as you like. But just the ability to continue to work, to work up and down the flank all night, work into space, open up options for her teammates, continuously looking forward, continuously putting in the work, not allowing defenders any space at all, any moment to breathe. She was a factor, and that was why she took out Player of the Match honours. So 100% kudos to her. She was brilliant. Mary Fowler, oh my God, I've been watching the replay of that goal and her pass all day long. The absolute nerve to take the touch past the player, compose herself, pause, and then nail the pass to absolute perfection to slice the pass through that defence. That's unplayable. This young girl's ceiling is just absolutely massive, and she's an absolute joy to watch already. Keep in mind with that pass, massive, yes, but at the same time, just her work rate and her ability to spot moments of space, pockets of space, just continuously thinking forward, continuously moving, getting in between the lines. She's an absolute nightmare to mark. For opposition defenders, her ceiling is so high. At the age of 20, when all's said and done, she could well be our greatest Australian women's sporting talent. And that's not limited to football either. We've punched above our weight in sports, as we know. Mary Fowler's going to be well up there, I think, when all's said and done. That's how much I believe in her talent, her ability to perform at a World Cup like this for someone that age is just absolutely extraordinary. And we don't make enough players like that. We're getting there. But I think Mary Fowler is just an absolute diamond, and she's going to be a massive contributor for years to come. And even as we look ahead in the immediate term into next week, she's going to be crucial. So big up Mary Fowler, man. What an absolute pleasure to watch.
Yeah, we could see it coming when she first made her debut as a teenager. She just had it all. But I've also been watching replay after replay of that goal, and the very start of it, it's Caitlyn Ford's first touch that passes the ball to Fowler, and then Caitlyn rushes off down the left, and then Fowler obviously spots her with that pass. Just an incredible play all around. But we have to also talk about Hayley Rasso. She's notching up the goals here. She's putting in excellent performances. Could she be a bit of a dark horse going into the Golden Boot race?
Look, quite possibly. That's not a bad shout at all. I think she, depending on how, again, I think this team's defence, almost like a defence-first mentality. Don't confuse that for a defensive approach either. I think this team's set up defensively allows it to go forward very well, and Hayley Rasso has been an absolute forefront of that. So she's as good a chance as any of that. So I think as tight as the games go and the fine margins I expect this to be, she might have a little bit of ground to make up on Miyazawa, but at the same time, why not her? Why not her? So she's been just quietly going about her business, just stepping up, having the pressure of not having Sam Kerr available. That can mess with the player. That can really rest on their nerves a little bit. She hasn't felt that at all, and she's gone out and contributed with these performances. To her to win a Golden Boot, that would cap it off absolutely. So why not put a fair chance going forward in the next few weeks?
Yeah, we had a feeling records would tumble this week, and they did. Seven announced that their viewership for that game was 6.5 6.54 million. Comfortably the most watched program on Seven this year. That is likely to tumble again as the tournament progresses, particularly if the Matildas stay in it for longer. Just amazing. And the demographics range from 16-year-olds to 59-year-olds. Everyone's just tuning in and just can't get enough of this Matilda side and this World Cup in general. I know we talk about this every week, but we have to. The stats don't lie. Everyone's buying into the dream, and it's amazing to see.
It truly is. And I think it's blown people away. I think just people want to embrace this team. People want to get on the ride. People, again, they start to know the players a bit more. They watch that Disney Plus documentary. This is a team you want to root for, and this is a team who's getting it done. This is a team who has players competing at the highest levels overseas. And I think it's just really changed the way football is almost perceived in this country. This is not the women's team anymore. This is the Matildas. This is our team. So it's transcended. I think it's transcending sport. It's transcending football at the moment. It's really capturing the culture, it's capturing the zeitgeist here, and these numbers are bearing it out. If they make it to the final, there's a fair chance that hits 10 mil, surely. That viewer rate does hit 10 mil, and absolute pandemonium ensues from then on, and a public holiday potentially if the Matildas get up. So I say that, I know we've said this week in, week out, but at the same time, it's massive to see people tuning in. But now, with politicians liking to get that rub off the Matildas, like wanting to get that glow from the Matildas, now's the time for them to come up with the funding for the game and fund it properly. I called on that last night in a somewhat cheeky way to the Prime Minister, but at the same time, they have to. They have to. This game is chronically underfunded, chronically under-resourced, but yet is punching above its weight in the results it puts out. So now it's time for the politicians to put away the scarves for a little bit and start to come up with some money, fund the game. These ratings will tell you that people want more, and people want to see this team and women in football, women's football here, go to the next level. And politicians have some way to do that. So come to the table and let's take this even further. The sky's the limit for this team, and the sky's the limit for the game in this country.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen people who've never watched football previously, watching this tournament, going to games, taking in the atmosphere. Everyone's just been completely blown away by the atmosphere around it. Even I got to the stadium really early last night, and I just took a slow walk past the fans and the festivities around it, the fan parks, the music. It's just everyone's just embracing it, and it's just wonderful to see. Obviously, World Cups, especially home World Cups, come along very, very rarely. So it's not like this is going to be an annual or every 4-year event. It's about continuing this momentum further, getting people to continue to embrace the game and grow the game. And we've got a taste of where it can go, and let's hope it gets there. The Matildas now, as we've mentioned, the draw has really opened up with all these upsets. They're a real chance to win this World Cup. Wouldn't that be exceptional? And who else do you reckon are in the running aside from Japan we mentioned, Spain we mentioned?
But particularly for me, I do still rate England's chances highly, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Spain, I think with the form, that vein of form that Aitana Bonmati is in at the moment, with her technical ability, the way she absolutely gave the Switzerland defence absolute fits. Her timing into the box, her timing of the finishes, just the composure, the movement, the touches. A superb player. And I think Spain will get. I think Spain are will make the final. I still have Spain high up there. Japan are high up there as well. I think Sweden, particularly with the vein of form that Zecira Musovic is in at the moment, and her outstanding performance against the US, we have to mention, Sweden are an outside chance. I wouldn't count them out. I know they looked a bit sketchy at different times. I thought they weren't all the way there, I think, against the US. I thought they ceded way too much ground to the US, whose era has now come to an end, courtesy of that absolutely mad penalty shootout. Sweden are riding a bit of a wave at the moment. They have Fridolina Rolfo and Kosovare Aslani as well. So they have those game-breaking playmakers as well within their lineup. I think we can't take them for granted either. So they had their moment of panic against the US. I think that sets them up pretty well. But I think Spain, Germany, England, and why not Australia is my final four at the moment, and it's very fine margins from then on. France, okay, as we record this tonight, they're outsiders. I think, particularly the form that Kaditiatu Diani is in at the moment, 3 goals so far this World Cup. I think at this time, they're still well led. They're still very well coached and very well drilled. I wouldn't take them lightly at all, and I wouldn't take the challenge that Morocco may pose at all lightly. So they're the outside smokies, if you will. The Netherlands are performing quite well, so I consider them in just those outsider range. They're that second tier bracket, I think, at this point. But yeah, nothing can change my mind, I think, about the way that Spain are going about it. Just their total mastery, their total control over games, frequently getting 60-70% possession and just really controlling where the game is played. They're right up there still as a favourite for me as well. So again, we said this about Germany, and look what happened to them. We saw this with Brazil as an outside chance. Look what happened to them. You can't take success in this game for granted. You need to show up, and who executes in the moments is going to be a telling factor as we move forward and progress through the knockout rounds.
As you mentioning country after country, it just becomes more and more clear how impossible it is to call this World Cup. The results have been insane all over the place. That penalty shootout, as you mentioned, between Sweden and the USA was one of the craziest penalty shootouts we've ever seen in football. Just the storylines, the drama, the matchups, it's anyone's call what can happen after this. And I look forward to discussing more of it with you next week, and who knows what will happen between now and then. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be discussing more and more records, more and more crazy drama, more and more unbelievable results.
Absolutely, and I can't get enough of this World Cup. Let it continue. I'm not ready for it to end. Look forward to breaking it all down with you as well this time next week. Come on, the Matildas. Let's see where this all takes us, and let's ride the wave. I've enjoyed this very much, so let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Katie, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.